everyone. Hi, everyone. How are you? Hi. Can we start? Hi.
Good morning from Argentina.
Hello, Mabel. Hello, this is Pam Rajput from India.
Hello, Pam. This is Gianna from Italy.
Hello, hello.
Hi, this is Cheryl checking in from Brussels. Hi, good morning, my little girl. So cute.
Lovely young girl.
Hi.
Heather, beautiful.
Thank you. We'll be mostly muted because she's also a loud young girl, but you say hi.
Let her be a loud young girl.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Can we start? Okay, we are ready. Okay, 1 second. Okay. Hi, everyone. Hi, sisters. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Okay, thank you to everyone who attend yesterday's session and the other one earlier. We are really really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for coming here today for the delegates meeting. We are really appreciate you taking the time to have the session. If we look at the screen, okay, we can see the agenda for today, the delegates meeting. Please have a look. Okay. Sorry, we just have 1 minute. Okay. Okay. Everybody read it. This is the agenda for today. And then after the opening, we have the video of W20 delegates and reconfirming the W20 delegates and head of delegation. We have the reconfirming the method of communications. And then after that, we have the present the communicate development process and calendar of activities. And after that, we have the present zero draft on the Likupang, the last event before. And then, of course, we would like to have the present the baseline draft Batu. And at the end, we have the wrap up. Does everyone agree? We hope this will meet everybody's expectation. Did it agree? Any comment? Okay. All right. Okay. So can we have something to okay. Yes, Mabel agree. Thank you. Oh, okay. Pam didn't see on the screen. Okay, now how about it now, Pam? Did you see on the screen, Pam?
Yeah, I can see it now. Thank
All
you.
right. Okay, thank
And
you.
agreed. And agreed.
Okay, thank you.
Agree with the
Okay.
agenda.
Yes. And then Elvira agree. And then Narmani, everybody agree. South Korea agree. Virginia agree. Then okay. So can we have do something? Agree. Okay. We will start with the names of delegates. I will show the name and please inform me the chat box should there be any mistakes. Apologize if this seems redundant, but we did receive some changes that we would like to reconfirm with everyone. However, for head of delegations, please do email us to our secretariat in the format like what we will see you later on. So, okay, now we would like to send the video, please. The name of the delegate. Yeah, from Argentina. Yeah.
It's okay. Argentina is okay.
Argentina, okay. Next. Next. Yeah. How about Australia? Okay. Australia, okay. Brazil?
Brazil,
sorry,
it's
sorry,
okay.
sorry. Hang on. Move back. Brazil. Sorry.
It's not a problem. Brazil, it's okay.
Brazil, okay. Next. Canada.
We're missing a few on there. Is it best to just email them to you?
All right. All you can put on the chat now, so we can add now directly. All right.
Okay, I'll put it in the chat. That sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, next. Next, after Canada, Argentina.
No, Argentina is all right.
Israel, China. Sorry,
it's okay.
This is China. Sorry, this is
Oh,
China.
yeah.
Sorry. We have a mistake. Yeah. Okay, next. This is China. Is it China okay? So please move to China before.
We don't know. We didn't have a very strong
All right. Okay. Sorry.
relation with them. We don't know.
Yes. Next, please. United Europe.
This is correct, but if
European
you could just
Union.
leave off the VD on my name, Cheryl. Either include the whole name or just delete the last two letters. Thank you.
Sorry. Would you like to say again? Say again,
Just a point, the delegation is correct, but just a point about my last name.
Okay.
To either delete the VD or write the full name out.
All right.
Is Bombay.
Okay.
But I can send a note in the chat.
Please, on the chat box. Okay. Thank you. I will change it. French? How about French?
I'm sorry, wait, there was another comment about by our delegate, Tamara Dancheva, that the name for the European Union is also not correct.
Oh,
So
okay.
it should be European Union. We are, of course, also a united Europe, but that's not the name.
Okay. Okay, noted. So please put on it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Next. For Germany.
This is correct.
All right. Thank you. Next. India. I think okay, yeah. Next, please. Yeah, Indonesia, okay. Next, please. Italy. I
We
think
missed two
yeah, we
delegates.
missing
I write
something.
in the
Yeah.
chat. I write in the chat the
Yes,
name
please.
missed.
Thank
Okay.
you, Elvira. Thank you.
Thank you to you.
All right. Thank you. Next. Japan.
I think one is missing. I will put in the chat.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next. Mexico. Is that okay, Mexico? All right. Okay, next, please. Russia. No one here? Okay, next, please. Saudi Arabia. Okay, next, please. South Korea.
Yes, we're all there. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, please. Africa.
That's correct. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Next, please. Turkey.
We are here. Thank you.
Oh, okay, right. Thank you. Next, please. United UK.
That's correct.
Okay, correct.
Thank you. Next, please. USA.
I'm looking at them, just a second.
It's okay. Just take your time.
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Thank you, Virginia.
One other thing, Uli,
Okay. Yes.
you didn't have South before Africa, and
Oh,
you
okay.
didn't spell United Kingdom correctly. You had
Oh,
an
yes.
extra
Yeah.
E.
Yes. Noted. Yes. Agree. Yes. Noted. All right. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Next. Okay. This is the. Yeah. Okay. So, a kind reminder for the head of delegation. Please inform us through email in the 3 days. The deadline is on March 12, 2022. I think this is on the next Saturday, as we plan to have a head of delegation meeting on March 14, 2022. So the format is as follows. Write your country of representation and head of delegation name and list of delegates is the complete. So please send through the email. At least the last is on March of 12, 20. Is there any, everyone agreed for this? Or any question? Okay. All right. Okay. So thank you for everyone for the inputs. Please don't forget send us emails. The next thing I would to confirm is W20 delegates flow of communications. We would like your inputs and preferences of how the information among the delegates be passed through. we did receive some inputs that it can be done through the head of delegation beforehand, or email and WhatsApp circulations among everyone is a prefer. Please, we open the floor for everyone who wants to add their thought. Okay, so how you prefer to send through the receive the info from the email or WhatsApp?
May I?
Yes.
Thank you, it's Mabel from Argentina. I think we need to use the email because WhatsApp is good, but it's not possible to follow a discussion in a good way. So it's better that you do it by email.
Okay. Thank you.
Uli?
Yeah.
Uli, there are people that
yes.
wants to enter.
Yes, Golden.
There are people who wants to enter to this conference call. Thank you.
Okay.
Uli,
Yes, yes.
it's Virginia. I agree with Mabel, and for one very important reason in particular, two. One is the length of information that you can convey, and second, it's only pretty much a single thread. So we might be starting to talk about something, and then something else comes up. Can you not hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I hear you,
Okay.
Virginia.
And then something else comes up. For example, 3 times I tried to get a conversation started about the summit on women's public procurement, and then other major things intervened, including the situation in Ukraine. And so I do think we should at some point consider having a platform where we can store content and have dialogues on particular topics. I think that would be very helpful with working groups and so forth, something like Microsoft Teams that would enable multiple threads to be discussed. But for now, I think email is better for something that everyone needs to know.
Okay, Virginia, noted. Thank you. Should we send all the information? Yes, yes.
May I comment to what Virginia mentioned?
Yes.
I think having a Microsoft team will actually help us to have like a more interactive discussion. However, we would like also to know whether it is accessible for all or not. As we know, if it is email, it is actually very difficult to track certain topics. Yeah, because it can be buried with thousands of emails that we receive on daily basis. So if we have like what Virginia mentioned, using, for instance, a certain platform like Microsoft Teams, that actually will be easier for us to curate the topics. However, we need to have confirmation whether that platform can be utilized by all delegates. So, Bully, maybe that can be that can be confirmed by chat with all the delegates. Thank you.
Okay.
So if I may, this is Kumju from South Korea. I understand that when the W20 was, when the Secretariat was Japan, they offered us a platform. So we inputted all of our information and I think we used it for a while. And then under the Saudi Arabia Secretariat, we were recommended to use Teams. So I think we did attempt to use Teams a little bit. So it looks like every year, the Secretariat is always trying to come up with some kind of a platform. But if we can just stick to one that's more universal, then I think that will be helpful. And if that can continue, that will probably be a more sustainable way to keep the conversation going, I think. So that it's just a recommendation.
Okay, the sticking to the first platform is okay. Okay. Yes, Virginia. Yes, please.
I don't have my hand up. I was trying to lower it.
Oh, okay. All right. Any other thoughts? Yes. Okay. So clear already. So we can continue for the next. Okay. So now Dian will present to you the communique, develop process and calendar of the activities. I give the floor to Dian. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Uli. Am I audible? Okay, so good evening, good afternoon, good morning, delegates of W20. Thank you very much for attending this meeting. I think the objective of this meeting, especially my session, is to gain multi-way of understanding among us. In this opportunity, allow me to share with all of you our proposal on process of communicate development. Next slide, please. So first, I would like to recall our mission, W20 Indonesia mission, that have been communicated in previous meetings, such as our initial and also kick-off meeting. So our mission is to influence high-level commitment on women's empowerment and gender equality agenda in G20. Putting gender equality and women's empowerment at the center of global discussion in the pathway of economic recovery post-COVID-19. So this mission is created on the context of COVID recovery with the aspiration for having our issues to be part of G20 leaders declaration. So I think I need to elaborate further because as I mentioned, it has been communicated earlier. Next. Then we translated that mission into 4 priority issues. We want to ensure that our priority issues are in line with W20 traditional pillars, which are finance, digital, and labor. Yeah, I know that we have or we receive a lot of question on this, whether we are aligned with those 3 pillars, but we want to ensure you all that we are trying to align our priority issues with W20 traditional pillars. And because we would like to have our issues incorporated in the leader declaration, so we need to inline our priority issues with G20 Indonesia teams as well. So as we shared with you earlier, our G20 Indonesia teams are 3 or 3 pillars, which are global health architecture, digital transformation, and sustainable energy transition. And also the G20 Indonesian presidency have one overarching theme, which is inclusive economic growth. So the alignment of these 3 different classifications shown in this slide. So in the first column, we have our priorities issue, 4 priorities issues. and then how our W20 tradition pillars will be discussed or will be part of that for all these each priority issues, and also how the G20 2022 pillars and theme will be incorporated in each of these priority issues. So I hope that this slide can explain to you how we will correlate our priorities issue with our W20 traditional pillars. Next. But then probably the main question is then how to take those discussion into our communique. So what we want to propose is that to draft the communique in a modular approach. So
Sorry.
Yeah.
Could you put the slide bigger, please, in the screen? Because it's so small, we couldn't read it. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you for that input. Is it
Yeah, great.
better
Thank
now?
you so much. Yeah.
Thank you for the input. Yeah. So so from the previous slide, probably the biggest question is how to take those discussion into the communique. So our proposal is to draft the communique in a modular approach. The reason why we take this approach is to have real use cases and have the W20 pillars reflected in each use case. So we visualize the relation with having priority issues as four vertical pillars, as what we put here. Those four pillars is the discrimination, equality, women-led MSMEs, equitable health, and rural women and disabilities. Those are the four vertical pillars, which is our priority issues. And we have the W20 traditional pillar, which is labor, finance, and digital as cross-cutting themes that will actually discuss across all these four vertical pillars or these four priority issues. So for each module, we will have a context, and then also we will have the key action needed, which we will have from the discussion and also from the plenary session that we have. And then we will have to have also key enablers, that need to be set in place to support the implementation of the key recommendation, such as, so far what we heard also from all the delegates is about how do we create a knowledge hub, and then also delivery units, for instance, like the WeAct, and also the CISPR that we announced yesterday, and also the monitoring system. So this monitoring system will be needed to track and monitor the progress of this recommendation or this action. And because we need to have things that will be trackable and monitorable. So then each of these priorities issue needs to have specific metrics, specific metric and KPI that we can track and monitor continuously. So maybe I should pause here a bit for you to digest this. This is, I think, the best that we can do to visualize to you how our priorities issue will actually correlate with the W20 traditional pillars. Yes, please, Anne, and maybe I will start with Anne first.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm sorry, it's morning for me, and so maybe I'm just not very quick this morning. But could you explain to me again where it was on the previous slide where the economic development piece goes related to these?
Okay.
And I think I was trying to read the small slide, so I might have missed some of your explanation. I apologize.
Okay. Should I come back to the previous slide?
That would be good. That would be
Okay,
good.
okay. Previous slide, please. So basically, all these three, labor, finance, digital, actually will cut across all these all these four priority issues. Yeah, because if we're talking about discrimination and equality, is actually it will touch labor, finance, and digital. But however, what I put here is the main theme, the main pillars that will be discussed in each priority issues. But generally, you will see all these three in that each of these priority issues.
Right.
So,
And I see that now I see that your sustainable and inclusive economic development is in two priority issues.
Correct.
MSMEs and rural women. Makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much. I just missed that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I think what will be the challenge here to align with the G20 pillar is on the sustainable energy transition, because that's not actually so far what we put in the priority issues. But what we think is that this will be very important for rural areas, because for rural areas we know that the energy is very scarce and also expensive. So having like a energy transition to more a sustainable platform will be important. But I have to admit that currently for that we still do not have a concrete action yet. That's why probably if any of you have inputs or initiative, that will be very helpful. So I see Tamara raise her hand. Please, Tamara.
Thank you so much, Dian, for this presentation and the thought put behind it. I just have a question because, of course, this differs significantly from the initial priorities and working groups we were presented with. I see that rural women and disability currently don't have digital as a pillar, but then on the next slide, you have included digital. And so the question is, how is the whole digital agenda going to be viewed? Because of course, if we look at priority 2, I mean, it's great we're discussing it under women-led MSME, but let's not forget the whole issue of access, meaning access to infrastructure, access to connectivity. These are big issues, which we are currently not even touching upon. And obviously, it's like a building block, right? So first you need access to infrastructure, then connectivity, then skills, then you go to leadership. And so this is traditionally how we tackle this agenda. When you talk about rural women and women with disability, those are actually currently the unconnected. So personally, it will be really critical that digital is actually included in that pillar, because otherwise we're not tackling the core of the issue. And that is, how do we connect women in rural areas and women with disabilities currently? Thank you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that, Tamara, because if we're talking about rural women, actually what we think as the first issue is infrastructure. So this infrastructure is not only digital infrastructure, but will be like a power, roads, logistic, and so on and so forth. So basically, digital is there as part of the infrastructure that we should actually build for rural areas or for rural women. Yeah, what we put here is the probably the main theme, but I hear you, Tamara. So that's why actually on the next slide, basically every pillars can be in every priority issues as we visualize in this slide. Sorry, can we make this slide bigger? Admin, can you make the slide bigger? Okay. Next slide. Thank you. So go back to this. So basically, these three things will actually discuss, because this is a cross-cutting theme. What we would like to have with this modular approach is that, for instance, if we are talking about digital, what we want to talk is how to use digital, for instance, for MSMEs. So it will be focused to that areas, because if we're talking about digital, actually the spectrum of the usage of digital will be very, very wide. So by putting it in modular approach, we want to, for instance, really implement or reflect the digital part into the use case. So for instance, if I take the second priority issue, the MSMEs, today actually we heard from the panelists, from the speakers, they said that digital literacy is probably the main theme for enhancing this woman on MSMEs. Yeah. So the upskilling for digital and financial literacy is very important. For each priority issues, we have actually we have some ideas on what will be action in each of these. So for instance, today for MSME, we heard that creating ecosystem is very important. And then the upskilling for financing and digital is also very important. So then the literacy, digital literacy and financial literacy for this women own MSMEs will be supported. Again, and then for rural women, for instance, if I take the fourth priority issues, actually, to your point, Tamara, we put there that digital upskilling is one of the initiative that we have to put for those rural women. But before that digital upscaling, the infrastructure needs to be there first. So that's why probably in the previous slide, you don't see the digital as the main, because digital can be introduced to them after we have the infrastructure. And in Indonesia, because we are the biggest archipelago, and then to touch all this rural area is still a very big issue and challenges in terms of infrastructure. So the first thing that we want, actually, for instance, our governments to do is to build those remote areas. So any other comment? I see Mabel raise her hand. Please.
Yes, thank you so much. I have some doubts, and I want to put it here because I think this is the moment we can start sharing our ideas and proposals. I think it's a very interesting issue to this cross-cutting of the four pillars or the main issues. You put it here. But I'm afraid in this way, we are going to lose some of the important issues in labor, finance, and digital that we need to say that they are not so good related to these four issues. So maybe we are going to have a lot of superposition or many things common to each of these four, and we are going to lose some others that are more general. This is why I'm a bit afraid of this, in order, if we can do maybe in a different way, the three traditional pillars plus these ones in which we put or specify the issues for each of these, but we are not losing our general recommendations we need to do in labor, finance, and digital that maybe are not clear for the others. And we need to be sure that they are in the communique because they are important. So this is my my feeling, and I want to let you know how I doubt about this. I think it's a very interesting, but has this problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mabel, for raising your concern. I actually I agree with you that there are other things outside the priority issues that might not be part of this. However, what we see is that because these three pillars have been discussed in the previous presidencies as well, so actually there are many things that we can refer to those results, because I don't think we need to rediscuss something that have been resulted or have been concluded before. I think what we need to do there in our communique is to have some kind of a library of what we have discussed previously, and we can refer to the previous communique. And then if for something that we concluded it is needed to be specifically discussed, we can put in the same for addition to the priorities issues. Member, I hope that can address the issues. So Barbara, I see you raise your hand.
Thank you. Yes, I just wanted to follow on in terms of Mabel's comments and others. I understand the rationale and I get the merits of this modular approach. But for me, I just feel that we possibly might end up losing some of the real big issues that we need to resolve in terms of getting gender equality. And for me, one of the big issues is getting women into work, into decent work, and with decent pay, and all the issues associated with that. Because once you get your independence and you're self-sufficient, then some of these other problems then are easier to solve, the issues that we're trying to grapple with as well. So I'm a bit concerned that if we follow this, we run the risk of perhaps losing some of the important recommendations and changes that we need G20 leaders and indeed leaders around the world to consider in terms of the labour market, getting women into work. We know that the future of work is going to be a big digital transformation of work. So jobs are going to change. We're going to need lots of reskilling and upskilling and so on. And all of these things come together in terms of equality, and I'm a little bit concerned that we might run the risk of losing that while we look at the pillars in this way. And also, I think that ending violence against women, you know, that's a huge theme, if you like, or topic in its own right. And the fact that we've put that in with discrimination, I don't know how much space we want to give ending of violence against women, because that is a big issue for all of us. We want to see it ended. And there's lots of other issues associated with discrimination also. And I'm not sure how much of this we're going to be able to really present in a communique in a meaningful way and get the engagement of the G20 leaders in terms of decision making.
Thank you, Barbara, for your input. Actually, for labor participation in the workforce, that will be in the discrimination or equality in the economy. So that will be in the first priority. So the reason why we separate the labor for in terms of workforce and then the labor in the entrepreneur, because it has two different how to say domain. So for the labor in the workforce, it will be in the equality or discrimination for the economic inclusion. So that part is will cover what you mentioned, Barbara. I think I saw Dwi raise a hand. Maybe you want to add to that answer, Dwi, to respond to Barbara and Mabel.
Thank you, Ibu Dian, and thank you, Mabel and Barbara. And we understand your concern. But if you allow us to also summarize all of your concern into the body text of the communique itself, and you will see that in the draft 0 or in the baseline draft that we will be sharing with you tonight, all of these concerns, for example, like female labor force participation, violence against women, all this will all be addressed. The modular approach that we are presenting is the way to govern our thought in trying to explain that we will not be losing our sight of the traditional pillar of labor, finance, and digital, but it not necessarily be only in that cost-cutting theme. The thinking process of developing the communique will still be going on. We will be still having meeting with you in either in small groups or in big groups, and all these inputs will be will be followed up, and none will be discarded, sort of. So all the richness of discussion, the complete situation, the context, and all the dynamics, hopefully we can, capture all of them. This is the way to govern our thought, and none will be discarded. I think the richness of the discussion will then follow up after we have a regular meeting. And later on, Ibu Dian will also present the timeline of when we can get into that rich discussion. Probably that's all, Ibu Dian. If I can
Yeah, thank you.
explain a bit.
Thank you, Dee, for explaining that. So I hope that can address the concern, the previous concern. I see Anne-Marie also raised her hand. Please, Anne-Marie.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not feeling great, so I'm just going to try and verbalize what I put in the chat. It's not necessarily a bad thing, the change, but we haven't had it ahead of time, as Cheryl said, to be able to analyze why it's been done in this way. It would be helpful, I think, to know who is behind the redraft, because I understand we're trying to fit a bit with the G20 pillars to catch more traction with the G20, which makes some sense, obviously, but their pillars maybe change every year, as it sounds to. But just to know who was it McKinsey behind it? Was it W20 team generally behind it? Was it UN Women, or who came up with the idea of trying to restructure it like this? And how are we going to go ongoing for data tracking as well, if we're planning to track labor, finance, digital, and entrepreneurship and in the past, and then we had other cross-cutting things that were different, like cultural change, etc. The whole thing has completely been revamped, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but we need to understand how do we then keep tracking the same issues every year. And also in terms of writing the communique, it's always been hard every year as it was. So now it's completely revamped in a different way. We're going to have a lot of repetition. So I think getting the communique as one document at an early stage will be even more important to get people time to buy into that and to try and eliminate some of the cross-cutting repetition. So I think that's supposed to give the background of like, why did they change the structure like this? Who was behind that, and what was the thought behind it?
Yeah. Budwi,
Yes.
I see that you
Perhaps,
want to
yeah,
comment
later on, Anne-Marie, the structure of the community will be the same. Nothing is going to be changed altogether. It's just our way of explaining that our priority issues that seems remotely, doesn't seem remotely close to the traditional pillar of digital finance and labor, will have, will have its relevance to these pillars, rather than changing, the structure. The structure will be the same. It's just our thinking process of knowing, of explaining to all delegates that we will not leave the traditional pillar altogether, but we will try to ensure that all the concerns within our scope of observation with regards to the four priority issues, discrimination and violence, MSMEs, rural women and women with disability, and gender equitable health response will be addressed and still relevant to the pillar. It's just our way to explain how it is still relevant, the traditional pillar. So it is, again, this is a product of thinking process that after we hear a lot of inputs from Virginia, from Mabel, from Pam, those who are been involved in the process, we don't want to leave altogether the pillar. We want to be still relevant to the ongoing monitoring process of the W20, but we also want to have a bit of the relevance as well with the Indonesia, presidency pillar and our priority issues. So the three if you can see, like, the basis is the priority issues, the second underlying or overlaying variable is the pillar, and the third one is the relevance to the current presidency. So that is our thinking. The content itself, I believe it will carry the same weight as trying to monitor the progress, but with the contextual analysis of what has happened during the past 1 year. So that's probably in my explanation. Later on, you will see also the baseline draft of this based on this thinking process. Over to you, Ibu Dian.
Yeah, thank you, Dwi. So just add to that answer. Actually, this is based on the discussion in our W20 committee held by McCarthy and also UN Women. Cheryl, I see that you raised your hand.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm sorry that I'm on a spotty connection, so I'm not going to join by video. But I think there's just a remark here on the process and then on the content. The first would be, I'm sure that you were working to the down to the wire to put the presentation and the approach together, but perhaps, I think we're getting kind of lost in the weeds now simply because it's a big switch in terms of perspective. And that's more difficult to process than had we had the presentation and the thinking up front. So that's just a process level observation. Maybe for the future sessions, we can have the presentations up front and then prepare our comments even offline before we join the session. But I know that's a luxury often anyhow. But as far as the substantive feedback, I would say from the EU anyhow, that this approach, whatever we do, we really want to make sure that we get through to the final president's statement. So personally, I think it makes a lot of sense to align with those priorities of the presidency. And then to not lose the, to matrix these pillars with those, the presidential priorities. I think it'll just take some creative and application of our own thoughts. And maybe that's what the next pages of the presentation are, simply to map those critical issues into each, cross-secting point on the mapping, and to have, I think there has to be the scoping exercise as the next stage to see that visually at each intersecting point, that the pillars as well as the presidential priorities have the critical issues that we want there. And then after that, when everyone is reassured, that we can start to break down how we are going to do the work in terms of organizing that and explaining it, in a written document as succinctly as possible, going into the next phases.
Yeah. Cheryl, thank you very much for that comment. Yes, I agree with you and apologize that although we actually have the intent to provide the input or provide the deck prior to the meeting, but for this, I have to apologize that it was not sent prior to this meeting. But this comment is aligned with what I want to show in the next slide. Yeah, this is the our intent actually, as what we say, Cheryl, that we want to we have to have like a certain timeline for sharing with you prior to the any meeting or any plenary. I see Diana share raise her hand, but is it okay if I explain this first, Diana, or you want still to talk about the previous?
No, it was just a very short comment
Yeah, please.
concerning the organization of the working groups for the pillars you have mentioned, the 4 pillars. I think we have to stick the working groups in the 3 pillars, the traditional pillars, and give contribution to each of the 4 cross-cutting pillars that you have understood. That can be a solution from my view.
Okay. Thank you for the input. We will log all this input as what we mentioned, and we will come back to you on probably a later stage, so then you can see how it will be translated into the framework, the real framework. Thank you. So on the how we will come up to the communicate development. So this is the sequence. Yeah. So we will have like a baseline draft. So this baseline draft based on the inception note, previous communique, also the G20 declaration, and as what Cheryl said, that actually we should share this to delegates H-1 or 1 day before the plenary. And then the plenary session, like what we had today, and also in Likupang. And then from this plenary session, we will have a zero draft. So this zero draft is updated based on the input from each the plenary session, and will be distributed to the delegate. So our aim is actually now to share those zero drafts 3 days after the plenary to seek inputs from the delegate, and we get that written input from the delegate, and we will share to the committee H+10 after plenary. So I think for the next sequence, you can see in this slide. Yeah, and from the previous input also from all of you, that because this draft will be discussed within the working group, you said that you also need to have input to the head of delegate. So then we will have also alignment meeting with head of delegates. That's why previously Uli actually asked for the names, because currently we only have 4 Uli, 4 head of delegate that is in our database. But all delegates said that they need input about what is happening. So to make it easier for us to communicate, we need those names. Yeah. So this is how we want to process until we have the final draft. Cheryl, you raise your hand again.
No, maybe I didn't put it down. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Okay, next. The next one, I also something that I think all of you also asked us about the calendar of the year. Yeah, very sorry. I think it also needs to be communicated earlier, but due to some reasons, now we have the final one. So you can see here where we are today. Today is we have the plenary 2 or the MSMEs, and then we have the third one on the 24th. Yeah. Some of you already asked, okay, where will be the working group please bear with us because we need this plenary to get all the input. And from this plenary, we will have the zero draft and the baseline and so on and so forth until we will have the final draft in July that will be submitted for communique and declaration. Of course, in the course of April and June, there will be a lot of iteration processes, which is the working group discussion that probably will be every 2 weeks and are not in this specifically mentioned in this timeline. I'm very happy that some of you already indicated your intent or your to attend our summit, and you need to have like a firm date, so then you can plan your travel or your trip to here. So we can share here that that summit will be on the 19 and 21 July 2022. Gianna, I see that you.
Yes, just a short comment. The last slide, what is the numbers you put on H plus 3, H plus 10, H plus 24?
Days. Days.
Days.
Sorry, 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 not mention that days.
It's a very strict plan you have made for each working group. I don't know if
yeah,
we
at least
will be able to follow this plan.
Yeah, at least that is our aim, Gianna. Probably so far, for instance, like even in this meeting, we have shared it earlier to the meeting. So you're right, it will need more, I mean, discipline to actually follow that. But I understand that to have like a better discussion and proposed discussion, it is a must. It's almost mandatory that for us to share the deck prior to the meeting. Would we?
Sorry, may I? It's Mabel.
Oh, yeah, please, Mabel.
I'm a bit confused about the when you put the plenaries there. Seems to be that with the plenaries, we are supposed to avoid the group discussions because I think in the plenaries, there are many proposals and so on, but it's nothing concrete, I am afraid, or maybe not so concrete as in the working group we can put. So I'm not sure how is it that working. You understand what I ask? Sorry.
Sorry, Mabel. If you can repeat that,
yeah. Yes.
I don't get it.
I see that you put the dates of the plenaries. So we have had in February the discrimination and violence. Now it was the MSME, and it's going to be the 24th the health. I say that the plenaries are replacing the working groups because we used to have working groups. Because I don't know where are we going to work in our working groups to define what we want to put, you know?
Okay. So actually, we will have outside the plenary for the working group discussion. That's why the April until June we put here on the iteration process is actually the working group discussion to discuss the baseline and draft of the each topic. Diba, do you want to elaborate there?
Okay. Yeah. So if I may continue to explain about this timeline, we would like to discuss more deeper on the priority issue, and which is in working group sessions in starting in April, May, and June. So we actually done a lot of plenary events, what we call the other day site events, early in the early part of the year. So we would like to specialize. We would like to dedicate the time in April, May, June to actually do the working group meeting. I guess that's the additional information.
So this plenary will not be, it's not the working group. The working group will be scheduled in this April to June
Starting
time frame.
April.
Yeah. So Pam, I see you raise your hand, Pam. Please.
Yes, Dan, thank you very much. Just a suggestion. Of course, now the things are becoming clearer that after the plenaries, the working groups will start working. Last time we had a plenary and there were a few people that they didn't know, and they have not opted for any working group. So can the secretariat, send an email even now asking persons that these are the 4 working groups. Whosoever wants to join can, send the information so that we have complete working group before we start working in the month of April on our, baseline or zero draft, whatever it is. So because it is the working group which is really going to work on the recommendations. And so my request to you is that, and of course, people are present in the meeting today also, but a formal request could go again to all the members, delegates, to give their choice as to which group they want to be part of. Thank you.
Okay, Pam, thank you very much for your input. Yeah, we will send again the survey that will be sent to all the delegates to know the interest in which working group that they will be participating. In the previous survey that sent by Sita, actually it has been we already received some inquiries. So Bu Sita, if you want to add to that, I think what Pam suggested is actually something that we need to address.
Yeah.
Sita.
Yeah. Yeah. If I may, Budian. Hello, everybody. Yeah, it's almost what time? Almost 9 o'clock at in the evening in Indonesia, and also good morning, good afternoon, and perhaps also in some places is over midnight. Yeah. As people discuss, I also read in the chat. Yeah, the first about the survey. I agree with what Pam suggested. We can send again the survey because as we know that for the chair of the co-chair of the working group on health and on rural women and women disability, it's not yet
defined.
Yeah, assigned. So
perhaps by sending again the survey, and also we can also give inputs on who is going to be the chair of the co-chair of the working group health and rural women. Perhaps we can come with a name or some names. And in the chat, there are also people suggesting perhaps the work of the working group not in stages, but in parallel. So I think that is also one option that perhaps can be taken. We can discuss about that. But what I'm trying to say here is that as the committee, because there's also in the chat mentioning how can we have the zero draft before the working group is working. Pam also mentioned zero draft or baseline draft. So perhaps what we are trying to do is to draft the zero draft, or perhaps draft the baseline draft, in order to become a point of departure to be discussed and getting inputs from all of the delegates, so we can start doing the work. Of course, when we try to make the baseline draft, we are referring to the past documents, and through the side events now become the plenary of W20, we hope that we get some inputs, and based on that, after the plenary or after the plenary, the working group can start give suggestion and input about what is have to be there in the baseline draft, and then when it's I don't know what the word exactly is, it completed or adding with some more details based on the inputs from the delegates, we can then proceed to the next draft, zero draft, and then build upon that until we get the fifth draft or the seventh draft on each of the priority issues to be the ingredient of the communique. And of course, we are in our imagination, what we are trying to do is build towards the communique, and we are looking very much the input and the support from the W20 delegates. So what we trying to propose here is actually a starting to discuss, or perhaps that is not good, you're supposed to do it like this. That is also okay, because what we are trying to propose here, suggest is there's a starting point to start chewing the issue and all the thinking with regards to the priority issue. So let's ask again through email on who is, because not all of the delegates already given their what you call it, interest they are going to do in what issues. And perhaps I don't know whether we have to do kind like voting for us electing the chair of the working group, but that is open for discussion. So what we are like very much to do it engagingly and in what you call it, democratic way. And so we are hoping that perhaps through this meeting we can get the terms of how to do it together in order to get the develop the community. Thank you, Budian.
Thank you, Busita, for that. So we will open another survey, Bu Sita, to gather the inquiries on the interest from each delegate. I saw Diba, you raise your hand. Diba, please.
Yes. Thank you, Budian. Yes, in order to have the working group sessions, we should select the leader first. How about if we select in this forum as how about that? Because some of the delegates already sent by the survey. For rural women, we have Tamara dan Cheva, Golden Turkan, Sylvia Taurozi, Anne-Marie Marison, Patricia Geraldine Tato Mereles. And then women with disabilities, Andrea Grobo Chapotel, and Narnia Bohler-Muller. That's for the priority number 3. So is there any more delegates who wants to chair, who wants to nominate themselves for chairing the priority issue number 3? Because later on we could, how about if we select it in this forum?
What is 3? Is health or is rural women and disability?
It's
Sorry.
rural women and disabilities.
Okay.
Yeah, together in one priority. Yeah.
Yeah.
For women with
Okay, thank you.
disabilities and rural women. Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, yeah. Any comment on that? Virginia, are you raising your hand?
Yes, I believe that it would be really useful to have expertise both on rural and disability. And because we're looking at a different structure, I think it would be appropriate to have an international person who is deeply expert in disability and one who is deeply expert in rural. And I think we can come up with a better communique if we're able to do that, because the issues are not identical.
So you're really suggesting 2 heads for that, right?
That's exactly correct. Correct. Thank you, Anne.
So Diba, so
Yeah.
the input is to have 2 names on that, Virginia, correct?
Yeah.
That's what I think would result in
Yeah.
better content. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you, Anne.
Yeah, because it's a two different sub areas. So, yeah.
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 So we can have 2.
Yeah, I think the reason why we put it in one, because we see those are marginalized women, but I agree that those 2 are actually different different skill or different knowledge category. Yeah. Yeah. Diba, do you want to do this? I mean, to lead the appointment, Diba?
Sure. Okay, I will. I've wrote the names on the chat of the delegates who already put their names when we did the survey in the beginning of the after the kickoff. So the first question is there any more delegates who want to nominate themselves for rural women and women with disabilities? You can raise your hand if you would like to be nominated.
May I make one other comment before that happens? If we're going to make a decision today, I think it would be useful to have each of the candidates do a 1-minute presentation on why they think they're the right person for that particular position. So we're making an intelligent decision, and someone who understands that it is a real work and time commitment and not just something to put on a resume. Not that any of our delegates would think that, of course, but.
I think it's a really good point, Virginia. Thank you.
Yeah.
And before we do that, is Jana wants to say something? Jana and Elena. Jana, I'll give the floor to you.
Yes, I would like just to point out that Martina Rogato would like to participate in the Rural Women and Disability.
Okay.
She sent
Okay,
a message.
Okay, we put Martina in rural, under rural, yeah?
Under rural, yes.
Okay. All right. And Elena, do you have something else to say?
I fully agree with Virginia. So we need to put like a recommendation, the reason to be in one of those groups. So I fully agree. I would love to join both groups, but I think that to make like the reasons to be within the group.
Okay. Anne Simmons?
So I'm sorry, I really actually have a question, just trying to figure it out. So I'm going to give an example for me, and maybe that will resonate with other delegates. So my background is really as a lawyer, but looking at sustainable and inclusive economic development. So when you did your, you aligned that with women, medium and small enterprises. It also is aligned with rural women and disabilities. So I feel like I could contribute to those. But then also with my legal background, I've done a lot on discrimination and equality. So how do you think that some of those other cross-cutting themes and those other underlying ones will fit in that? I'm not volunteering to be a chair, because I don't think it aligns with that, but I would love to participate in more than one group.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I got your point. And I saw also some of the delegates who put in the chat room saying that a lot of will be cross-cutting. That's why we want, that's why you want this working group to be done parallelly, right? Because there are so many cutting cross issues. So okay, let me get to Mabel first, and then after that we could have all the nominated person to say 1 minute of their bio or short resume why she should be on the chair. Mabel, go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. What I want to say is that we usually are in more than one group participating, because there are so many cross-cutting issues. The problem is if no one could be into as leaders or coordinator or whatever you want to call, because it's not being possible, but we need to request in the new survey that they can choose more than one, because maybe this is something that we couldn't ask before. Nothing else. And I agree, we need to know why the people propose, they propose, what are the antecedents and the expertise.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mabel. And I'll give the floor first to Cheryl and then Virginia. Go ahead.
Thank you. I just have to say that this is catching me a bit unawares. Is the plan now to actually go through every working group and every candidate? Because my position would be that we could do this a little more efficiently offline, perhaps. I'd love to have some CVs and motivations, and I'm probably not alone in that. And then also what the view of the Indonesian presidency is in terms of, is it going to be joint working group heads like we had with Italy, with one member of the Italian delegation and one from, you know, the wider W20. So I think we need a little bit of leadership there on what Indonesia would like to see, and then also a little bit more, maybe a little bit more efficient, because it is honestly also sensitive. It is also political. We have to be very upfront about that, and maybe best to do it in steps and at you know, once removed, so not in everyone's face, you know, in the call without any fair warning, I would say.
Yeah, okay. Noted though, it is something that we should take time.
I'm sorry to cut you off, sorry, but just one other comment is,
okay.
However,
Go
I
ahead.
do think that this is a priority. So I really do think that maybe that's how we choose the heads of delegation. Is it's got to be someone who will help to draft the zero draft. So do the mapping exercise that I suggested in our chat, you know, and in my previous comment, to the previous communique and the new approach for Indonesia, make sure that everything is there. So all of the working group heads should look at that document and say, yes, nothing has fallen through the cracks. It will also help us to understand the structure. So for me, it's not entirely clear what those working groups will be. Will they be the pillars, or will they be the three cross-cutting issues, right? So after the mapping exercise, maybe we'll also have a better idea on how to tackle, you know, from an organizational perspective, what those, I don't want to be throwing in new information here, but that's just an idea that occurred to me. So indeed, this is priority that we choose the leadership, because that it will inform the zero draft drafting. And however, I have a preference for us doing that offline.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Sarah. Virginia, go ahead. You can unmute yourself. Yeah, your mic still not on.
Okay. I very much agree that we should do this offline. First of all, we've had an enormous amount of information to assimilate that was new to all of us today. And so I think if you clarify from the Indonesian point of view what you envision happening, how we deal with the three that you consider cross-cutting compared with your 4 priority issue areas, and what you expect out of each area just briefly, then have everyone who is interested in that submit, you know, like a 1-pager of why they think they should be the chair of that working group, or the co-chair with the Indonesian representative. I still think that that rural women and disability would do a number of things jointly relating to digital, for example, finance, etc. But we need expertise at the helm of each major issue that we're going to be focusing on, I think, and then have private voting by email or survey or whatever. But I completely agree with Cheryl that we need to do this really quickly, because, you know, the calendar is marching along. We have great brain power within the W20 delegates, and everybody is really champing at the bit to be able to move forward on policy and work on the best recommendations we've ever had, so we can get as much as we can into the G20 Leaders Declaration. And we have consistently failed many times getting some of our priority issues adopted. And the time really is now to align the W20 with G20 priorities while keeping the best recommendations that we've had in the past. And we've had some fabulous recommendations that have gone nowhere. And rather than reinventing those recommendations and modifying them slightly every year, let's get them endorsed and implemented during Indonesia's presidency. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very
Okay.
much, Virginia, for your comment. I think we all agree that we cannot do the selection today or right in this session. But I also agree that we have to do it as soon as possible. So Diba, we will arrange the offline session for that, and also to Virginia comment that we will give a one slider for the background for these two priority issues that have not have the leaders yet. So then people can pitch for that position.
They can send a CV to Dion if they want, but just at least everyone has a one pager why they think they should be it. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, one
We
slider.
we
So
probably
Bu
we
I
also
think,
probably
yeah.
can agree with the dateline of those who interest to be chair to give their short bio or short CV, let's say in how many days next, because we need it fast, right? So do we agree
Yeah,
on how
correct.
many days?
Today,
2
So
days,
today,
3 days ahead?
This is
Friday.
Cheryl again.
by weekend, probably, yeah.
By
By
this
weekend,
weekend?
so then next week we already have the name.
Yeah.
So we will send this after the meeting on so that people can digest the priorities issues and the cross-cutting issues. And then after that, then we will invite the intent or the interest with their bios, and we hope that by end of the weekend, we can have the that one page for the selection. Yeah, Bully, we can conclude that.
Agree. So we can
Yeah.
have together with the head of delegation also. That's on 12th of March. Or it means it's this Saturday.
Yeah.
All right.
So this
Thank
Saturday
you.
we have the head of delegation name
Right.
as well.
Also.
Yeah.
Yeah. As well. Thank you.
So Bully, that is the my presentation on the how we will arrive with the communique. So I hand over the agenda to you, Bully.
Okay.
And thank you all for the participation and the very valuable input. Thank you.
Jadi apa? Okay. So next our agenda today now is the present Giro draft Likupang. This is draft. Is Dwi can present this?
Just a bit of correction, Ibu Uli, it is not a zero draft.
Oh, sorry.
It is a baseline draft
Baseline
because we
draft.
haven't
Sorry. Baseline
we
draft. Yeah,
haven't
yeah.
really write anything. It's just our mapping of perhaps before you show me this, I would like to perhaps show my our initial effort to map out the past communiques and what has been discussed in the area of discrimination and violence previously, and how we can come about into. So if you if the share screen is closed, I will need to have one screen shared with you regarding the mapping of issues, and perhaps I can be given an access to share. Please, someone
You can share screen maybe.
Okay. So this is, I'm going to show you, this is our first effort to map out the issue that has been mentioned in the past communiques with regards to discrimination and violence. So it is not something that is in vacuum. Some of these issues has already been mentioned also in the study done by OECD in two past communiques in Italy and in Saudi Arabia. So this is the mapping of issues that has been mentioned around discrimination and violence in the past communique. So it is mentioning about discrimination. The root cause or the problem is the pervasive gender norms, bias, stereotype that impacts women's participation in the economy and decision making. I know that the communique of Saudi mentioned about decision making, and also a communique in Italy mentioned about this. The OECD report also mentioned about this. So this is the root cause. And the recommendation is basically based on the past communique around the area of norms changing campaign, public education. I think the issue of public education also mentioned in our initial meeting on the 31st of January by many delegates. Legal and policy reform strongly emphasized in the past presidency in past communique, legal and policy reform. I think law and policy reform is also being mentioned in the OECD study. The third one, recommendation, participation, access, and safety of women in STEM and digital platform is something that we can think about because the trend is also increasing the digital or the online gender-based violence. Again, digital is coming into the picture of access of women in STEM. This is also mentioned in the communique of Italy. The second part of the issue is violence. It is mentioned in many communiques as a context. It's lack of legal protection, gaps in services. In communique Italy, it's also mentioned about the services. Recognition of the impact of the pandemic to the domestic violence. It is something that we also observe has been increasing. Again, the recommendation is around, or the dimension for the recommendation is around legal policy and access to services. Again, investment in data, statistics, and evidence-based recommendation. The evidence-based recommendation is something that I think the team, the committee here in Indonesia also see as one of the strongest advocacy tools for ending violence and also addressing gender-based violence during the pandemic. So these are our first attempt to map out all the issues that mentioned in the past presidency and also our own exercise of seeing the context, this year. So with that, I will end the sharing and go to the baseline draft. So if someone can share the baseline draft. So the baseline draft is actually based on that mapping. We tease out recommendation that is relevant to that. And in this, sorry, can just share it here. Based on that, we drafted something along this line. You know that we have this comment. The thing is, the comment is something that we can also, if we want to share the document with you and there's a placeholder for you to share the context, for example, and there's the feedback box. I think the feedback box really highlights some of the issues that has not been mentioned in the context, and it is important to put in the context. And focus area and key actions needed. It is also based on our mapping of the past communiques and also discussion that happens in February. So these are the actions that needs to be done. Many of these are really similar. So the consistency or the continuation from the previous presidency to the next presidencies still being retained. It's just something that is contextual, something that is dynamic to the issue that we are now experiencing as two largest economies in the world is also being mentioned here in addition to Indonesia's priority. For example, the STEM and digital transformation. There's also some mention about digital transformation in this. Again, there's a feedback box, ending violence against women. Similar, I think many of the key issues that has been brought about in the attention in the communique of the past communique is also being mentioned here, but also some recognition around COVID pandemic and beyond, the services for women survivors. Resources on statistic and data. Again, also the phenomenon of online or IT-assisted gender-based violence. This is something that is fairly new to the, not fairly new, but has been increasing and identified and is increasing because of the, use of, IT. It is also being mentioned in the OECD report. So nothing is really something like out of the box or we reinvent the wheel. We just trying to tease out, issues that are very contextual and relevant. And we put here key enablers. Why key enablers? Because something that perhaps not really on the issue, but something that has been identified during the plenary discussion. For example, the database, the knowledge hub is being mentioned in the initial discussion and also being mentioned again in our plenary in February. So just put the placeholder here, key enablers, just to ensure that probably there are issues that is not really directly relevant to the thematic areas, but can enable some recommendation to be more stronger. So this is something that we think about to be circulated with you once the working group has already been identified, once the co-chair of the working group has been identified, and you can refine, you can also shape all this discussion. If there are some issues that is relevant to what that you have mentioned around labor participation, around digital, please make it so. I think one of the reasons why we want to keep it, like a separate one, because we just want to make sure that we don't lose everything. We put everything. And then later on, when we enter the stage of reiteration, probably in, last week of April, then we can merge all together and perhaps make deliberate a decision to put whether it will be under 3-pillar, the conventional pillar, or there are some issues that we need to, piece out and be a separate pillar. So this is perhaps what I can share with regards to the thinking behind the baseline draft. As you can see, a lot of issues needs to be, again, we need your inputs. We will also try to ensure that if, for example, for some reason we need some in-depth inputs from you, there will be a survey perhaps, or any kind of inputs or insight generating activities, if we can say that. So that's probably a very short explanation about what is in the baseline draft, what the framework or the mapping exercise that makes all these issues being reflected in the baseline draft, and for the working group to take it forward. Over to you, Ibu Uli.
Okay, that's the conclusion. Thank you. Thank you, Ibu Dwi. So, is there any question you'd like to discuss?
Yeah, Virginia raised her hand.
Yes. Yes,
Oh,
please,
no,
Virginia.
no, sorry, I forgot to put it down.
Okay,
Amara?
also, Cheryl?
Yes, I have a question. I think it's just going back to what we were discussing a moment ago. The only thing, first of all, I'm very impressed by the amount of work that has already been done. So thank you so much for that.
Okay.
I'm a little bit worried though to jump to the actual drafting before having this high level mapping exercise done, because I think we've encountered this in the past where we've had the cross-cutting issues, that I think it would be better to avoid having them fully elaborated separately, and then only at the end clean out the redundance where, you know, that might happen anyway, where it might be preferable from the outset to choose our working group leaders and, you know, charge them with doing this exercise by the end of March, for example, that everyone is clear which subject areas are in their basket, and then take those to the working groups to elaborate. So just because, you know, I don't want to lose all of the work that we already have done is, I guess, what I'm most concerned about, that the language from the previous communiques end up in that zero draft, or, you know, whatever the starting point will be. And also that there isn't work that will be done unnecessarily, because I'm also a little bit, you know, worried about that, I guess.
Okay, it's well noted, Cheryl. Okay, so next, Tamara.
Thank you so much, colleagues. And well, firstly, I fully agree with what Cheryl said. I actually wanted to ask a question or a clarification. I saw there were also a lot of comments on this in the chat. Firstly, to help to clarify if we're keeping the same working groups that were announced in the surveys or not, because that will determine how many chairs are needed or co-chairs. And secondly, I know that we actually allowed delegates to complete the survey twice because some delegates missed the survey once. So, and I know that during this process, we were all asked to submit CVs, and I just think it would be really helpful to clarify, do we all have to do this again? Because we all, of course, followed the guidelines and the deadlines. We extended the deadline again, and do we now have to start again? I just think this will be a bit, especially given the timeline, difficult and also a bit unfair for those who obviously already submitted nominations. So I think unless there is a working group that is missing any candidacy, I suggest we honor the nominations that have been received, with the caveat of clarifying, do we need additional working groups or not? And then, of course, a decision on your end, colleagues, for the co-chair situation. Thank you.
Uli, if I may answer that.
Yes, please, Ibu Dian.
So, Tamara, actually, we will keep the previous result. So if, as we are all know, that actually we already have two heads of a working group, which is Virginia and Pam, for the issue note 1 and 2. So what we discussed today is for the other two, and we agreed actually for the marginalized women, which is rural area and disabilities, that will be two different heads. So what we are looking for is the three heads of coordinator that are not appointed before. So I hope that's clarified. So the input that we received before in terms of which one that wants to be in the certain working group, that will be kept. However, in the group of health and also in the marginalized women, which is the rural and disabilities, we still require more participation, because for instance, like in the marginalized women, now only two names, right? Three names. Yeah, three names, right? So we invite more participation on those, Tamara. So I hope that clarifies your concern.
No, thank you so much, Diane. And indeed, I just wanted to clarify the situation with the chairs, co-chairs. I mean, absolutely, I think we do definitely need to send a call for participation, but just because of the way the survey was structured, it was, of course, only asking, from what I remember, colleagues, correct me if I'm wrong, the survey only asked for nominations of chairs and then interested areas, but it didn't necessarily ask which working group you want to join. So yeah, I agree. I think it would be helpful to resend a call for participation only. And then, as I said, for the chairs, co-chairs, maybe, you know, just use what you already have, unless there are no candidates.
Okay, Tamara. Okay. Okay,
Thank you.
Tamara.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Next, is that Cheryl still raise your hand, or you just forgot to lower head?
I
So,
forgot to lower it. Sorry.
all
Thank
right.
you.
Okay. Okay. It's okay. Now we have the question from Anne Mary, please.
Thank you, Lily. I'd like to reiterate, thank you for all the work you've done so far. You've obviously been really busy. Yeah, it's not a criticism in any way, but I think it's just the survey format, as Tamara says, was asking who wants to chair a working group. And I think that's the issue, because we can't chair everything. We can't share everything, but there will be a lot of people that will attend working groups, but not necessarily want to chair them. So I think you need another email to, maybe if you're doing another survey or a follow-up, just to say who can attend which working groups. Because I know for Barbara and I in the UK, we would attend most of the working groups as head of delegation, because you have to think you have one vote per country at the end for the communique consensus. So we like to know what's going on as head of delegation. We like to know what's going on in each of the working groups, and we can't necessarily get our delegates to be able last minute to attend the meetings. So it would be helpful not to have all the meetings at the same time of day, to have them even a half an hour apart or whatever, or an hour apart. And also, ask that question, which ones would you like to attend rather than which would you like to head? Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Anne. Yes, okay, we will do another way to distinguish which ones are interesting to be the chair, who wants to be involved or attend. It's like that. Is it clear, Anne?
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Uli.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so can we move to the next, sorry. Okay, can we move to the next session? So the next is, we would like to present the baseline draft for the plenary 2. So Sita Aripurnami will be present. Please, Bu Sita.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Buli. Can somebody help sharing the screen? Mbak Dina or Mbak Dena, share screen, please.
1 minute, 1 minute.
Yeah. Oh, 18 have to go. Yeah, in the chat. Yeah. Thank you, 18, for participating. Okay. Okay, so can it be lower, please? Oh, the format is a bit different. Okay. So my part is to show. This is also the baseline draft, as like what Mbak Dwi explaining previously with regards to the first issue on discrimination and violence against women. So we attempt to develop a baseline draft, which related with the priority issue 2 that just discussed yesterday and today. So once again, this is actually our intention is just to do the drafting, and then this is a work in progress, our thinking process, and the way we develop this is based on the inception note that we prepare beforehand, which is based on our mapping on the past document, issue note that being developed in the early stage of the Indonesia presidency. So if when you see that it's not if you see that it's not complete enough, the intention is just that we want just to launch it and then ask the opinion from all of you. If you feel that some have to be added here, just add it, and or perhaps you have another way in structuring it. It's open for discussion. So what we try to do here is that the focus of the priority issue on achieving economic inclusion by supporting MSME owned and managed by women is to scaling up of women-owned or women-led SME through the digital transformation and financial inclusion. And the what you call it, the structure is that we put what is the focus, and we break down what is not detail, but the description on what we are focusing it. So for instance, like the first is to open the access for women-owned MSMEs to formal financial resources by ABC. And there's a feedback box. So actually, I pretty much copycat from what friends, the W20 Italy doing it. So there's the thing that we propose, and then the feedback box under it. So everybody can just put their inputs under the feedback box. But if you feel that this is not likely according to you, it's not good enough, then you can also propose what is actually can be done. Yeah. So if we can you go down? Yeah. So second, we also see that the focus is to utilize digital technology to expand women-owned MSMEs market and business networks by reskilling, upskilling women-owned MSME to ensure they can access new market and business network via various digital channels. And then creating women-owned MSMEs network, utilizing digital platform and connect them, and then feedbacks from all of you. Go down again, please. And then the third one is ensuring an ecosystem that allows women-owned MSMEs to grow by advocating for enabling policies from the government to support capacity development, gender responsive tax, financial products and services for women, the capacity development, they include skills by digitalization and so on, and then integrate women MSME to supply chain by increased engagement with private sector. Again, please. Yeah, then there's the feedback. And then the fourth is breaking society's bias in working women to accelerate progress toward gender equality in job quality by creating integrated campaign in normalizing women as business owners. So yeah, if then, for instance, like the number 4, why is only A? If you feel that there's some more needed to be written there, please do add it and then write it down in the feedback box. So that is what we feel the way we proceed in trying to what you call this, developing the thoughts. This is just a starting point, and then we are hoping that by getting all the inputs, the additional thinking or points or paragraph, then we can become more completed, and then we have the time to discuss it, which then we have to also agree on the dates on how we meet and works in order to develop the thinking process until the communicate. So I stop there, Ibu Uli. So perhaps some there are some inputs or questions from friends of the delegates. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Sita. Thank you so much. So is there any comment, suggestion, please?
I saw Pam raise her hand. Pam?
I want to speak in general, but if somebody has to speak on the second presentation, they are free to speak first. I can come later. I wanted to make a general observation, if you permit me.
Okay, Pam. Okay.
May I, Uli? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you
can.
very
Yeah.
much.
All right.
I just wanted to say that since we are adopting modular approach, and clearly we see the cross-cutting issues, I propose that the working group chairs, right, either at the stage of interim draft or maybe after the interim draft, but before the final draft, the working group chairs should meet to see, how the cross-cutting issues are flowing, and, we are able to reconcile those into, a kind of our communicate demands, which reinforce our this thing. So I propose that working group chairs must meet together, preferably offline, after the interim draft, but before the final draft. Because I see, let me say it with example.
Yes.
We are dealing with discrimination.
Yeah.
Right? We are dealing with violence against women. Now, the kind of women with disabilities violence they face, right? That issue will come in our this thing also. And in our discrimination, if we are going to talk about labor, and certainly how the rural women face discrimination, and the kind of harassment the agriculture labor faces in our countries which are agriculture based. So I think it's very, very important that the working group chairs, once a kind of interim draft is there, offline they meet and see to it, that there is a flow of our recommendations from the modular approach. Thank you.
Okay, Pam. It's well not. Thank you, Pam. All right. So I saw Cheryl, please.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I actually would echo what Pam is saying, but again, and I apologize if I'm repeating myself or if I'm becoming too dogmatic, but I think it would be good for the working group leaders to do the scoping and mapping exercise in the first phase, and then also to take some of the workload off of the Indonesian delegation, which frankly I don't think is fair. And I do think it should be the effort of the working group leaders as a group to do this scoping exercise, to take the modular approach of Indonesia, which checks all the boxes that I think we need to do strategically to get our message where it needs to go, but also to move the language from 2021 to 2022, embellish that as necessary, but just to put markers down. So already I'm seeing so much work that is being done, which is quite amazing. But again, that work, this level of detail that we're seeing also from Ibu Sita and before that is, I honestly think this is the work of the working groups. So it's too much burden for Indonesia, honestly. What I would suggest in the next phase is that our working group leaders take it upon themselves to do a mapping exercise, make sure all of the issues that are relevant for the W20 land on the map as far as what we want to communicate to the G20 and beyond in 2022. Have agreement at the level of the working group leaders on this scope and on the different sections that each working group will attack. And then once that is agreed at the highest level, that each working group start to deliver this, more elaborated, more detailed version of their remit for their working group, which is what I see is already happening, to be honest. And it just seems like maybe we're getting a little bit of the cart before the horse in the first place, but also that a lot of this work is being done by the Indonesian presidency, where technically it is work that lies with the working groups. Just my thought.
Okay. Yes, it's okay, Cheryl. It's a honor, and then we are committed to get everyone involved in the future. And it's a great idea to make the mapping as the first official task of the leaders should the majority agree. Is it okay?
Thank you. Yes. Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Okay, next we have Mabel. Please, Mabel.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm afraid I'm also going to repeat something, but it's impossible not to be repeating because we are coming back again to some issues. I'm a bit afraid we are going to lose the general points in the three main issues that as we are going through these different and specific themes for groups, we may lose the general. So I agree if we are going to mapping all those that needs to be, and then we are going to see, well, those that they are not going to be in the separate and need to be included in general because they are broad, maybe we need to have in the umbrella at the beginning, in the chapeau, I don't know where, but we need to have it. And for this, I think I agree with some comments in the chat that we couldn't leave this only to the 4 chairs of the working groups. I think we need to be supporting the head of delegation and of course the presidency. Sorry, you are going so much work, but you need to continue helping. And I think this is going to be something that we need to incorporate in this discussion and be clear about the framework you presented, that this is going to be happen. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mabel. Thank you so much. Thanks. Yeah. Okay.
Bu Uli, if I may comment,
Please,
Mabel,
Ibu
input. Yeah. Mabel, thank you very much for this input. Yeah, I agree that we should not overlook anything that is important for all of us. Yeah, so that mapping agree needs to be there. I think what we put here for the modular is something that is from our perspective is very important. But then if that check mark is already there, and from the mapping we see what other part that needs to be addressed, then we can ensure that we don't see anything left behind. So I hope that can give you assurance for a continuity and also for covering any issues that we need to tackle and give a focus on.
I thank
So,
you,
I
but
agree
I
with
think we
the
need
mapping. The
yeah.
mapping.
Yeah, but I think we need to put clearly in order all of us know that, because I'm afraid we lose the general and the broad issues. And I think we don't want to lose it. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Of course. Yes.
Very well understood. Very well understood.
Okay. Thank you, Vidian. Thank you, Mabel. Okay. Is there any comment, advice, please? All right. Okay. So I like to say some key takeaways from the discussions. Okay. We will, number one is we will wait for the emails regarding delegates from the all W20 heads of delegations. And then I will share reminders on the W20 WhatsApp group. The format is already in PPT that we have shared earlier, and then we will circulate to the emails as well. And then the number 2 is additional information for those who are interested in chairing rural women and women with disability. We also would like you to send us a 1-page on your motivations and expertise related to the issues. And the third, in regarding with overall framework in driving draft communique development, we will share baseline draft 1 day before the plenary, and we will share the 0 draft 3 days after the plenary, and we will wait the written inputs from the delegates for 10 days after the plenary. We will share the interim draft to the delegates 17 days after the plenary. We will alignment with head of delegate 24 days after the plenary. And we will send the final draft 20 days after the plenary. And then number 4, all chair of working group will be involved accordingly. And then number 5, the documents that are presented today will be circulated later on. Number 6, of course, thank you everyone for the time and commitment for the second plenary. I hope we can work together moving forward accordingly. We believe that our effort to work hand to hand for women's empowerment will be paid off. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank
See
you.
you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you, Cheryl. Filipina, thank you.
Belated happy birthday
Thank you,
again.
Elena.
Happy
Thank you
birthday
all.
again.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Uli,
Thank you
happy
for all.
birthday again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pam. Happy
Thank
birthday,
you.
Yuki.
Yes, thank
Also,
you.
happy birthday from me.
Yes, I know. Thank you.
Happy birthdays.
Yes, thank you all. Thank you so much. Thank you.
See you in the next
See
meeting.
you. Yes. See you. Thank you.
I just wanted to congratulate you on a heroic effort. My goodness, was
Oh,
this
thank you, Virginia.
well,
Thank
I
you,
send you
Virginia.
I send you birthday greetings and a great big hug to your heart.
I know. I will big hug to you all. Okay, together. Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you,
Take care.
Virginia.
Hi,
Thank
Gulden. Thank you,
you.
Gulden.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye,
Golden.
everyone. Take
Bye.
care. Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you all, Elena.
You all.
Bye, Busita.
Bye,
Bye, Elena.
Elena.
Bye, Elena. Take care,
Bye,
Elena. Thank you.
Golden.
Bye.
So I will leave, yeah?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank